Okay. Should have everything. Also, it's slightly raining, which honestly is a pretty good mood setter. Though I'm not sure how much of that is going to come through. I got a little bit caught up in like a side project, so I'm slightly delayed starting, but it was also important to make sure that I had tea, considering how much reading this one's going to be. Yeah, so picking up immediately after the ending with the scientist and continuing into the maid. You continue to drift in the darkness. It submerges you like tar, like oil. There's something oddly reassuring about the darkness, something soothing. The lady, but you hear a voice calling out to you through the veil of blackness which surrounds you, something which stirs memories deep within you. You recognize that voice. You are sure you know them, though you can't put a name or a face to them. Not yet, not just yet, at least. Yeah? Excuse me, milady. This realization is like a flickering candle, one which soon turns into a burning beacon. There is nothing wrong with drinking tea. Honestly, I should be drinking it a lot more instead of chugging down as much caffeine as I usually do. You might not remember who you are, but perhaps this person will. Perhaps they can give you a name, an identity to latch onto, and, in so doing, they can save you from the darkness. Milady, it's time to wake up. You do not. You suddenly realize, like the darkness you do not. You suddenly realize, like the darkness very much. It no longer feels as reassuring as it did. It has ceased to be a comforting cradle song, and instead has become something stiflingly oppressive. You fight against it, your eyes widen, frightened, like a startled pony's, and then... Also, if it's too low, I can definitely up the audio, because I don't want it to be, like, non-existent. It is very light, but it shouldn't be, like, non-existent, because, like, right now I'm hearing birds chirp. The light which rushes forwards to meet you is sharp and spiky, and it lacerates your eyes, penetrating them like pins. Your head spins. For a few moments, you feel sick. Your whole body aches. Tried growing my own chamomile. Chamomile is pretty good, though. Oh, my lady. No, I'm saying that because of Johnny. Oh, my lady. My poor, dear lady. Are you still feeling ill? But you feel a hand upon the small of your back, massaging you through the fabric of your nightgown. It is a broad, wide palm, flat and reassuring, and fills you with warmth. You exhale, trying to gather your bearings. Slowly, you breathe in, and just as slowly, you breathe out. You blink, disturbing the gauzy white spots which had begun to drift, jellyfish-like, across your vision. Then you glance about. You felt dazed and disoriented upon your waking, but now you have awoken from your deep, dreamless sleep. Something like familiarity begins to settle upon you. You are sitting in a grand four-poster bed, one with pale blue sheets and pale blue drapes. Your bed is piled high with soft plush pillows, and your favorite bear is sitting beside you, a large fluffy creature you call Percy. Yes, that's right. You remember Percy, and you remember this room too. You remember the cream walls, the landscapes, and their gilt frames. Your vanity table, with the circular mirror and the little perfume bottles arranged up upon the counter, and your favorite wide-brimmed sun hat with the length of satin ribbons tied about it. Bleh. You remember where you are, and perhaps more importantly, you remember who you are. You are a young lady of some renown, whose family possesses a considerable fortune. Well, of course you are a young lady. There's nothing else you could be, really, awaking in a fine room like this. You are a lady, not quite a princess, but definitely not a pauper, and a woman sitting beside you. Are you alright, my lady? Is your head still causing you pain? I am here, you know, if you need me for anything. And I have brought your breakfast up too. Perhaps that might help. She is your maid. Her hair is dark and it is tied back in a sensible braid. Her eyes, meanwhile, are dark, large and liquid, and lined with long, doll-like lashes. A small smile plays about her maid's face, almost motherly, as she says, "Would you care for a cup of tea?" You blink, still a little groggy. You have come to your senses, more or less. What in the world were you dreaming about? You can't quite remember, but you are sure it was disturbing, but you still feel somewhat disoriented. You know your maid as well as you know the backs of your own hands. Your ashen face which reflects back at you in your mirror. You have been close for many years, ever since you were children. She has been working here from the tender age of 12, when she first started as a scullery maid. You are 4 years your maid's junior. She's older than me. And you can recall coming across her in the corridors when you were a little girl, catching her eye in the garden, while she was engaged in hanging up the laundry, so she began to giggle. You liked the look of your maid, with her brown hair and her bright, easy smiles, and you knew from the first that you wanted her. You wanted to make her yours, and so you did. When you were a little older, old enough to require a lady's maid rather than a nurse, you asked your parents if they would let you make your maid officially yours. You had never asked your parents for anything before. They had drummed it into your head that you had to be a good girl, demure and mealy-mouthed and virtuous. They told you not to want things, not in a deep, emotional sense at least. Ladies can be as selfish and as avaricious and capricious as they please. They can lust after beautiful dresses and beautiful jewels and finely furnished homes. But other people, that is one thing ladies cannot desire. Ladies cannot be seen to yearn. To yearn is to be weak, and your parents have always been so strong, so self-sure. You feared that your parents would castigate you for wanting the maid so, for wanting to make her yours. But to your surprise, your parents did not scold you for your impetuous request. You thought that your desire would be obvious, stamped across your face, but your parents did not seem to see it that way. They, with their dark and unfeeling eyes, did not see your maid as being so very dissimilar from a beautiful dress, or from a beautiful brooch. They thought of her not as her own person, but as an object, something which could be battered and traded. They did not imagine that you asked for your maid's exclusive attention because you yearned for her, but because you simply, selfishly wanted her, which are two very different things. Your parents could not fathom how much you cared for your maid, how much you care for her still. Now, she is your everything. She is not just your lady's maid, though that is her official title. She is your best friend, your closest confidant, the one you love more than anybody in the world. It would not be an exaggeration to say that you adore her. You love her as intimately as it is possible for a woman to love another woman, perhaps even more intimately than it is thought strictly possible. You might be the lady, she your maid, but sometimes... Milady, are you alright? Sometimes when you look at her, you wonder whether she is not the one holding all of the cards after all. Did she catch your eye on purpose all those years ago so that you might pick her out from the rest, so that you would elevate her from her position as a mere scullery maid? Was this all pre-planned? Have you been dancing all this time in the palm of her hand? There are many things that you wonder, your past disorienting like a kaleidoscope, but are you still feverish? Your faces look rather flushed. Perhaps you aren't in the mood for tea right now. But no, you tell yourself firmly, you're being silly. You are certain that your maid has no ulterior motives, and even if she does, why does it matter? It doesn't change how much you care for her, and it does not change that she remains your only ally. She is the only one in this miserable pile you can call a home who smiles at you. She is your dearest friend, and you do not want to make her worry. She has done nothing to deserve it. You smile at your maid and tell her that you had a bad dream. You do not feel like yourself, but a nice cup of tea might help. But of course, I've already prepared the tea for you, my lady. I think it ought to have cooled down plenty, but just in case. Your maid plucks a delicate teacup from its saucer, which was resting on a tray, then brings it to her lips. Softly, she blows upon it. The mensch kiss? Of the tea rippling from her warm breath. There is something sensual about the way she blows upon your tea. Something which makes your stomach flutter. I wonder what that could possibly refer to. I very nonchalantly drink my own tea. Just in this brief moment. But the moment soon passes. Your maid hands your cup of tea to you, with the light and lifting. Careful now. It's cooled a little, but it's still hot enough. I wouldn't want you scalding yourself. You thank your maid for her thoughtfulness, and bring the teacup to your own lips. You do not need to blow upon the tea within yourself. Not when your maid has completed this ritual on your behalf. The tea is not hot in any case. It is slightly warmer than lukewarm, but holding the teacup does not make your fingers tingle. You look at your undiluting reflection within the brown tea for a few moments, your lips pursed. And then, under your maid's watchful gaze, you begin to sip. You let the taste of your tea unfurl across your tongue, just like the petals of a flower. Your tea is somewhat bitter, but you have heard that it is for your own good. Your maid has been buying herbal teas from Dr. Godwin, which are supposed to fortify you, to give you strength. Dr. Godwin is your physician, and you have seen her a few times since you felt ill. You are surprised your parents are willing to put their faith in a lady doctor, given how awfully old-fashioned they are. But Dr. Godwin has a sterling reputation. Wasn't Godwin brought up in the last story? She does come highly recommended. But not even she has been able to aid you. You like to think that these herbs your maid has been mixing into your tea are helping in some small way, though. But even if they aren't, you cannot fault your maid for trying to help you. Your maid has always been your most loyal ally. If you cannot trust her, you cannot trust anybody. You sip at your tea demurely, both your hands pressed around the cup, while your maid smiles at you. Her smile is soft and tender, so much so you could melt from it. Your maid's smile mixes, or at least it seems to, with the sun's light as it spills in through your windows, and with the warm tea sloshing about inside your cup. In such a way that you feel fortified. Sometimes you think that you live only for quiet. Understated moments like these, go spent with you and your maid. There's nobody else who makes you feel like she does. Nobody in the world. She is the only one who makes you happy. And you know that you love her more than you have ever and will ever love anybody else. Outside, you can hear the birds chirping, the leaves whispering secrets to one another as they shift in the breeze. It is a beautiful morning, and it promises to segue into an even more beautiful day. Would that you would rise from your bed to greet it, standing by your open window as the breeze plays through your hair. You wish to throw the covers off yourself, which lay atop you like a stifling prison, then cross your bedroom. You have always been a delicate girl with a dainty build, yet you should be able to manage walking a handful of steps. It should not be any great ordeal, and yet, you poor thing, your maid says in a gentle voice, which makes you feel small and insignificant, like some sort of pet. I will ignore that. I will deliberately ignore that. You still can't move, can you? Your maid is right about that. For the last fortnight, you have been assailed by a most curious illness. The illness leaves you feeling weak and lethargic, so much so you struggle simply to sit up in bed. You have always relied upon your maid to aid you, and you have been relying on her more than ever recently, after this illness has more or less incapacitated you. You find it hard to do much more than breathe, but at least your maid is sympathetic to your plight. She tuts, then says, I know you've not been feeling well lately, but it's all right. I'm here for you, my lady, and I'm not going to go anywhere, I promise. You can rely on me. It's my job to look after you, and I mean to do that to the last, until the bitter end. This is probably what she means to say. Is your illness so advanced that she can see the reaper looming over you, scythe drawn? But she evidently decides this is too grim a topic to discuss. Not this early in the morning. Your maid forces a smile instead, then says, Well, never mind that. I'll be here, like I said, so try not to fuss. You've no need to be lonely. Now, shall I help you dress? I know you mightn't be able to move far from your bedroom, but that's no excuse for slovenliness. Let's get you looking presentable. As your maid, it's my job to care for you. Oh, your maid exclaims, as if this has only just occurred to her. And I need to brush your hair, too. It's so lovely and long. It would be a shame to leave it so tangled. I don't know what you were dreaming of last night, milady. Were you being stalked through the woods by some sort of monster? But you really were writhing a lot. You roughed up your covers, and your hair is in an awful mess. You let your maid guide you to your wardrobe, or to be more precise, you lean on your maid as she hauls you to your wardrobe. You are not so very weak that you cannot stand on your own 2 feet, but you are weak enough that you cannot stand on your own 2 feet for long before toppling. You find it hard, too, to walk. You can only manage to shuffle, dragging your bare heels along your floor, but your maid seems pleased with your pitiful progress nonetheless. Very good, milady. You're doing much, much better than yesterday. Does your maid really think that? You do not feel any better. If anything, you feel even worse. Oh yes, I'm sure of it. You're definitely on the mend. I can see it in your face. Your cheeks are starting to get their apples again, and you no longer look so pained. We need only wait a little longer, and I'm sure you will be back to your usual self once more. Then you can leave your wretched bedroom, and you might be able to take a turn into the garden once more. Doesn't that sound nice? Your maid keeps up a steady series of chatter as she strips you of your nightgown and dresses you anew, attiring you in a rich green gown the color of grass and apples. Newly attired, your maid then steers you to your vanity, where she might brush out your hair, slowly and methodically removing all of the knots which snarl and snare against the brush's bristles. You sit there demurely, feeling rather like an oversized doll, a bloodless being made of porcelain. Ever since your sickness, your maid has been treating you like something to be cosseted. Cosseted. A beautiful object of peerless value that is at risk of losing its worth with every bump or bruise. She treats you incredibly gently, but part of you wonders whether she is not being too gentle. Is she being too deferential? You feel the gulf in your social statuses more keenly than ever when she fusses over you like this, when she fastens your buttons and ties your ribbons and runs that brush through your hair. You almost wish that she would not bother so much, that she did not care so much. But if your maid did not care, who else would be left to worry about you? Your parents have not been to see you since you fell ill. They seem not to care tuppence about you. But your marriage negotiations are continuing unimpeded, as if nothing has occurred. Your maid tells you as much as she brushes your hair, pausing to tease out a particularly stubborn knot near the right side of your scalp. You feel the bristles of the brush against the top of your ear, and you shudder from it. Your maid seems not to notice as you tremble. She's too entrenched in her tale. She clicks her tongue, then says, I can hardly believe your parents did not send Lord Worthing home already. He has been here for well over a fortnight. And for what cause? You are sick. Convenient that Convenient that I seem to have been sick for the entire time that my marriage proposal has been here as well. I thought your parents might send the odorous lord home for at least a brief spell, so that you might recuperate. But I suppose that would be asking for too much. They refuse to give you any peace, you poor thing. While you languish up here in your bedroom, they are still talking of your dowry. Your mother just can't help herself, and neither can Lord Worthing. They might fancy themselves as being elegant and refined, but I see nothing to commend in them myself. They wear fine suits and fancy dresses, and they sprayed themselves in lavish perfumes, but all of this artifice cannot hope to disguise what they truly are. They are nothing, your maid continues, her grip tightening about the handle of your hairbrush, more than beasts. Beasts, you ask? And then you wince. Your maid is digging the brush through your hair with no small amount of force, and it is starting to hurt. What does she mean by that? Well, what else am I to call them? They are trying to divide you up, milady, into pieces. They sink their teeth into you, and they rip and they gouge, and they mean to tear you asunder. Your mother is the worst offender. She's been determined to marry you off ever since you were a baby, but your father isn't much better. When they look at you, they don't see their own flesh and blood, a daughter they must protect, whom they have the duty of care towards. Instead, they see you as a bartering piece. They want to distribute you like an asset, to sell you off to the highest bidder, so that they might increase their own social standings. They don't care about you, your maid continues, her voice tightly controlled, perhaps self-consciously so. You can see your maid's face reflected back at you in the dresser, inverted, so it looks subtly wrong, not quite right. Your maid's eyes flash like fire and brimstone, while her jaw is tightly set. She is gritting her teeth together so hard you wonder whether the enamel will splinter. It seems worryingly apparent that, if she allows her temper to consume her, she would do herself harm. In that moment, you care not about the pain in your scalp, nor how harshly your maid is dragging the comb through your curls. All you care about is your maid. You love her, and you know that she loves you. But it is because she loves you that her temper flares like this, always hidden behind closed doors, so your parents will never see it. That's not necessarily a bad thing if you ask the right person. I don't know. Someone willing to get like that mad for me. It's a little attractive, maybe. Your parents will never know, must never know, how excessive your maid's passions are, how intense her longings. If your parents knew what your maid said about them, they would dismiss her without a second thought. They would throw her out onto the street by her ear, heedless of the years of her life. Heedless of the years of her life she has given to you, heedless of how much she has sacrificed for you. They would not care. You know they would not care. Your maid might be too passionate, with feelings which blaze behind her eyes like all the fires of hell, but your parents are uncomfortably cold by contrast. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing. I have to find like a really gentle way of not saying certain things. But I don't know, having a maid like that who gets a little bit passionate about me, especially in the context of a very unfeeling and self-aggrandizing family, might have an appeal on certain people with certain experiences. Behind their eyes, you can detect no feeling at all, no emotion, save for avarice. You wish your maid would not worry so for your sake. You fear that she is making herself ill, that she will rant and rave herself into an early grave. Yet you have the uncomfortable sensation as she tries to compose herself that she is right. Your parents really are unfeeling, and so is Lord Worthing. Thinking of him is enough to make you tremble. You wish you were not expected to wed, and, if that is non-negotiable, that you were not expected to wed him. You wish for so much, closeted away in your pastel bedchamber which smells of rose water. But, for all of your wishing, there is a precious little you can do. The world is very large, and you are very small. Sometimes you think you have even less value than your maid, for at least she is paid for her services. Not well, of course, but she receives money. What about you, however? You will not get paid when you wed Lord Worthing, not directly at least. Your parents are the one who will profit from you, just as your maid said, as if they were selling a sow at the market. Is that how your parents see you? Is that how Lord Worthing sees you? Are you really nothing more than an asset to be sold? Oh, if only you were not so young and unworldly. But these wishes are pointless. Just like your prayers, you dare not speak of them, not even to your maid, who tells you everything about herself, and so they die. Unspoken, your wishes turn to ash inside your heart, that cardiac muscle which seems, over the years, to have calcified. You wish that everything would not hurt so much. You wish. Oh, milady, I apologize for speaking so harshly. I never did mean to upset you. You wish, from time to time, that the world would stop turning. You wish that life was not so complicated, and that you could pass your time freely with your maid. She is the only one in the world who understands you, the only person who cares to. You never do speak of yourself. You never do speak of your wishes aloud. You have always thought it best not to. Have always worried it would be unladylike. But when you are with your maid, it doesn't matter. She understands how you feel, even if you do not express these feelings in words. Sometimes you think that she might understand you better than you understand yourself. She sets the gilt brush down with the dull thud. Did she realize that she was inadvertently causing you pain? Then leans in. She opens her arms, unfurling them like a raven might its dark feathered wings. Then, shifting towards you, she pulls you to her, twining her arms about your middle like a shroud. You feel her chest pressed against your back, soft and full. Feel her breath against the nape of your neck. Her breath is warm, yet it still makes you tremble. How curious. You needn't dwell on this horrible affair now. your maid tells you, her voice soft and soothing. It isn't something for you to worry your precious little head over. Privately, you think that this is indeed something you ought to be worrying about. This directly pertains to you, after all, and to your future. You are the one who will be wed against your will, not your maid. But her voice is so saccharine and sweet as it pours inside your ear, almost sickly, like molasses, as she says, It will be all right. Don't tremble so, milady. No matter what happens, you won't be alone. I'll never, ever let that happen. I'll stay with you. I will look after you. Come what may, I will take good care of you. So don't fret. Just leave everything up to me. It'll be fine. I promise. Your maid leans in a little closer. You feel the fullness of her breasts against your back. You feel the warmth of her body. And then there's a soft brush of her digits. Her fingertips part your hair, which falls down your neck, about your shoulders. She brushes She brushes your curls to one side to expose your nape. Then she dips her head and presses her lips to your neck in a tender kiss. I give me a sec to drink tea. Ha ha. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Okay. You hold your maid's words inside your heart as the hours elapse, as the sun in the sky, once so round and full and yellow, slowly begins to sink beneath the horizon. Your maid keeps you company in your bedroom for most of the day, as she often does, as she has for the last fortnight, ever since you felt ill. My mouth is like hurting from smiling so much. Whenever you find yourself fretting, thinking of your future, you remind yourself of your maid's earlier words. She said there was no need to fret. She told you to leave everything to her. She promised that everything would be all right, and you have no reason to disbelieve her. Your maid has never lied to you before, after all. Why would she begin now? You turn your thoughts away from your parents and from Lord Worthing, and from your impending wedding, and you focus on the simpler things in life. The light, irreverent, frothy things, sweet and silken like the cream in your coffee. You think of how pretty your hair is, now that your maid has styled it so neatly, and you think how pleasant it is to observe the sun slowly sinking from beyond your window. You think of how you love it when your maid smiles, and how you love it all the more when she laughs. And you think on how she almost certainly let you win that game of whist, though perhaps you oughtn't to comment upon it. She is your maid, after all. It is her job to make you happy. If she lets you win in card games, she is only doing her job, though this does rankle. You cannot help but wonder, as you fan your aces and your queens and your kings across your silken sheets, whether your maid would be so content to lose to you were you of a similar social status. There is something affected by the way the maid grasps There's something affected about the way the maid gasps when, for the third time in a row, she finds herself bested. Something which rings hollow in the way she winds her eyes. She is putting it on. You know that very well. This is a one-woman play, a performance the maid has perfected for your sake. She knows her role well, and she acts it with finesse. So much so, you almost wonder whether you oughtn't to present her with a bouquet of flowers for her efforts. But part of you wishes that she would not defer to you so. If your mate cares for you as much as she claims, would she not be that? Why not? Why can she not be honest with you? If you were both maids, sitting together in the subterranean kitchens, you doubt the maid would be so precious about the way she plays her cards. Precise. She would not make such a production either over each of your victories which you would rather fancy are not hard-earned. You know that she is trying to bolster your ego, but you wish she wouldn't. It creates a curious distance between the pair of you, a distance which itches like a parade of ants across your skin. Enough you want to tell her is enough. If you really are my friend, why don't you act like it? Why can't you let me lose for once? We both know you're better at card games than I am. You're much more cunning. What is the point of all this deception? I thought that you, at least, could be honest with me. You long to tell her this and more. But the words, as always, do not come. Like mercury trapped inside a glass thermometer, your words cannot escape. They have nowhere to go. You swallow them instead and smile at your maid. You wish her better luck next time, as she loses for the third time in a row, though you know that she lost on purpose. She did it to make you happy. Yet her losses only make you feel the distance between you and her so keenly. Dark, ugly thoughts begin to fill your head, just like storm clouds. But the moon's rays fill your room with gentle light, and it scatters your ungrateful, indignant musings before they have a chance to sour. You should not be so cruel to your maid, you chastise yourself, with an admonishing pinch to the side of your thigh. She is your only ally in this world of wolves, the only one who does not wish to devour you. Very easy joke that I'm deliberately just going to pass over. At the very least, I'm trying to pass over it. Maybe she can have a nibble. The story of my life. If only they knew how bad it was. Without her, you would be all alone. You repeat this to yourself like a mantra as your maid announces the end of your card games. Welcome, Effie. It is late, she says, and it is time to sleep. You must go to bed. There will be ample opportunities for merriment come the morn. We are spending time with a very beautiful beautiful, maid. Now, let me prepare you for bed, your maid says, her voice playfully sing-song. Which nightgown would you like to wear tonight, milady? You have so many lovely pieces in your wardrobe. You're rather spoiled for choice. There's the pale green poplin, the sheer cream silk. Though I'm rather fond of the pale pink muslin, I think. It suits you perfectly. Oh, the maid exclaims, skimming the gowns in your wardrobe. When I look at all of your lovely clothes all hung up like this, it does make me feel somewhat jealous. I know it's not a becoming emotion for a maid such as myself, and yet... The maid's voice trails off, and, somewhat abashed, she smiles. Well, never mind. Let us get you dressed, shall we? She speaks lightly, yet she cannot fully mask the envy which pulsates beneath her words. Her jealousy infests her, just like termites teeming within the walls of a house. Her face practically pulses from it, seeming to expand, but you do not mind that. You are glad that your maid trusts you enough to show you these ugly emotions of hers. You are glad she trusts you enough to be envious. It is almost enough to make up for all the games of whist which she willingly loses. Almost, but not quite. Your maid helps you with your night clothes. You are so weak you can scarce manage to button your buttons on your own, and then she lays you down. Gently, she runs her fingers through your hair. She touches reassuringly cool against your flushed, feverish brow. She dips her head, and smiling, she skims her lips against your forehead. It will all be all right, milady, she tells you, in a voice so gentle it could make the angels themselves weep. You will be all right, I promise. She soothes you to sleep thus, with talks of paradise on earth, of promises that you never suffer again, so long as you stay by her side. And as your eyelids fall shut, you find yourself believing her. Your indignation over these false games of which soon scatter, like leaves on the trees come the advent of the winter. You begin to doze and to dream, and as sleep captures you, you even begin to wonder why you were so upset to begin with. Why does it matter if your maid lets you win against her during whist? She only does it because she cares. Your maid's caring is apparent upon her face, written in every single furrow upon her brow, and inside every single shadow. You see the depths of your maid's affection in person the following morning when she enters the chamber to wake you. You sip at your cup of tea as per the custom, though the tea has not been wholly agreeable as of late. There is an unpleasant, earthly taste to it, accompanied by peculiar bitterness which lingers on your tongue long after swallowing. This must be the strange herbs your maid has been buying from this Dr. Godwin. You cannot say you like them very much, but perhaps it's an acquired taste. Okay. This one is probably the one that I've caught the soonest. But that doesn't make it bad. Because maybe I'm a little into it. You force yourself to swallow. In any case, not wanting to displease your maid, even if part of you wonders whether your rules has not become curiously reversed. I don't know why you're giving me that smile, Effie. I don't know whatever could be wrong with this very distinctly earthy taste in my tea that my maid has been preparing for me every morning. Surely you, as a young lady, should not care so much about a maid's feelings. You know, if your parents were aware of your feelings, they would castigate you for them. But your parents have never bothered to trouble themselves with you more than strictly is necessary. Perhaps you are being unduly paranoid, worrying about what they might think. When have they ever spared you any consideration? Your condition has been deteriorating by the day, yet still they do not bother to check on you. You cannot remember the last time you even spoke to your mother. Is it any wonder, then, you would turn to your maid for comfort? She isn't a doctor, but at least she is trying to help you with her herbal teas and the cool flannels she used to wipe down your fevered brow. Your maid has always been good to you. But she seems to be in something of a curious mood this morning. She paces back and forth in your bedchamber, looking rather like a caged animal. Her arms are held stiffly at her sides, just like a soldier's, and her fingertips are tightly clenched with such force her fingernails scrape against the tender insides of her palms. She wanders to and fro, the hem of her dark, severe dress swishing about her ankles, and as she paces, she hisses under her breath. Though she is speaking softly, the sound is harsh, the verbal equivalent of a scoring brush. You set your cup of tea to one side, back on its patterned saucer, once you have drained it. Then you sit up a little straighter in your bed and crane your neck, trying to listen. You look at your maid askance, and, as you do, you think you can catch a fragment of her dark and unruly mutterings. How could she? Your maid hisses, wearing a hole in the carpet with her continued pacing. How could she? How could she? Your maid inhales. There's an uncomfortable pause, and then that bitch. When I see her again, I'll gouge her eyes out. I'll bash her goddamn head in. That rancid, evil, heartless bitch. All I will say, officer, is that maybe someone getting a little mad on my behalf is... Does that count as a love language? You stare at your maid mutely, wide-eyed, not knowing what to say, not knowing what to do. You do not know what a bitch is beyond a female dog, yet you get the distinct feeling that is not what your maid is talking about. Nobody could ever accuse you, after all, of being unintelligent nor unobservant. You know that something is seriously wrong, but you know not what that something is. Your maid is angrier than you have known anybody to be before, angrier than you have known anybody could be. You survey her from the safety of your bed, Percy by your side, and you shiver, though your maid is not entirely devoid of awareness. She notices, after a pause, how you shrink away from her, and her expression softens. She turns to you, her expression newly gentle, though, even behind that, you can sense that her displeasure is churning as she says, "Oh, I do beg your pardon, milady. I apologize if I made you uncomfortable." She did make you feel uncomfortable, but you tell her not to mind it, that it doesn't matter. That is what you tell everybody if they make you uneasy. Not that people often ask. They never much seem to care about your opinion, which is why you always say that you don't mind. You know that this way, it would hurt less when you inevitably discover that they do not mind if you mind, that they do not care. It is better to feign that you do not mind than to be upfront with your feelings, especially when you know that you will be greeted with apathy both ways. This is how you've been raised. It is what you have come to know. But something doesn't quite sit right about all of this. You cannot help but feel that you shouldn't lie to your maid like this, not about your feelings. You shouldn't need to. But your maid seems reassured by your words nonetheless. She seems not to realize that you are not telling the truth. Or if she does, she does not upbraid you. Instead, she smiles and says, "Thank you, milady. I know I could count on you to be understanding. You've always been so good and so gracious. Not like your fucking ugly bitch hag of a mother." Your maid's short, sharp words take you by surprise once more, and again you blink. You look at her, wide-eyed, and ask, your voice trembling, "What happened? What did your mother do?" She did nothing. That's the worst thing about all of this. I tried to tell her earlier, when I paused by the parlor, that you did not wish to marry Lord Worthing, that you were having second thoughts about the whole business, but she didn't listen. She ordered me to be silent. She said she didn't want to hear my opinions on the matter. Yes, that's what she called it. She said it was a matter, your maid says, spitting vinegar, as though your future was nothing more trifling than a bill for her haberdashers. Haberdashers? She didn't care tuppence about what I had to say, and she didn't seem to care about you either. She completely ignored me, as though I've not been with you for years. I've always known that your mother is a selfish harridan, but to dismiss me so thoroughly, I was so upset I saw red. I had half a mind to pick up the poker from the fireplace and... Haberdasher, a hat maker. Interesting. I'm loving, like genuinely, I'm loving the very... I don't want to say colorful, because that's going to sound like cursing, but no, it's very unique. It's like uniquely strong choice of words. Like, they give you a very strong impression of the setting. I kind of want to say fanciful, but it's not like... It doesn't feel like pulling out just to, ooh, look at these fancy words that I know. It feels, no, just like, oh, like maybe a little bit of a flex, but it also does so much for the setting. You imagine that your maid means to go on, working herself up into a lather, but here she pauses. She catches your eye, and perhaps she sees how uneasy her bluster has made you. You cannot read your maid's mind, so you are not sure what entirely she is thinking. Oh, my poor mistress. I'm so sorry, carrying on like this. You didn't hear this. It's not like you've done anything wrong. But you are certain that your maid is thinking of you. That is why she is so upset. She is doing this for your benefit, working herself up in a fury over your own inevitable fate. She knows that you do not want to marry, though you have been unable to express as much. You are always taught that women are like small children, to be seen and not heard. But you have never had a voice, and often you feel like you might as well not have a visage as well at all. Nobody seems to care overtly how much. Oh my god. Nobody seems to care overly much about you. Not your parents and not Lord Worthing, but your maid does. This is hitting such a very specific, weakness of mine. She is here, at least, where all others have failed you, and she cares. You do not even need to tell her how you feel, because she seems to divine your mood regardless. She can tell what weighs upon your mind, and she now takes steps to rectify it. She sits upon your bed, the mattress sinking beneath her weight. Then, she reaches to take your hands, squeezing them gently, so you sigh. She smiles and says, "Well, it's all right. I'll try to fix things for you. I'll sort it all out, my lady, just as I've always done. I was born to serve you, my lady, and I'll see to it that no awful men will ever be able to bother you again. I promise." Your maid leans in and brushes a few strands of your fair hair to one side. Then, very gently, she kisses your forehead, skimming her lips against your feverish skin, so you shiver. She draws back, her eyes full and dark, heavy with some intense emotion that you can't quite place. But then she glances away, and the spell is broken. No longer do you try to perceive what she is saying. It no longer signifies. She smiles, then says, "Now, let us speak of lighter things. You still look a bit perky. You still look a bit peaky." Just gonna roll right through that one. "You still look a bit peaky, so perhaps we can't go outside. But would you like to play whist? I'm going to do my best today, I swear it. I won't let you beat me again." Now, that is a rather funny thing for your maid to say. You know that she could best you in whist easily, if she so desired. She only lets you win because she thinks that is what you want, because she feels sorry for you, sitting in your room day after day with nothing else to occupy yourself. She lets you win as an act of mercy, just as one might put a dying dog out of its misery. Ebi. I'm fine. I am doing 100% fine. I know authors who use subtlety, and they're all cowards. She lets you win in the hopes it will sweeten your lot in life, a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down. Let cool hand. I am perfectly fine. perfectly normal. But you are no idiot, even if you are meek and mild-mannered, and you know that your maid is lying during your games of whist. Your victories have all been built on falsehoods. You wish that you could trust your maid, and indeed, you trust her more than anybody else you know. But that is not saying much, really, when you know precious few people. Your world is hopelessly small. It is just you and your parents and your maid and Lord Worthing, though he hardly features. You do not have any friends. Wild, rancorous Elizabeth does not count. Raucous. Wild, raucous Elizabeth does not count. Who is Elizabeth? You do not have any allies. You only have your maid. If you cannot trust her, there is nobody you can turn to. And this thought makes you shudder. Your heart clenches inside your breast, as though it has been caught in a cage of thorns. You wish you had not thought of that, but now it has occurred to you, you cannot unthink it. You try not to dwell upon your own helplessness, but you do wonder, from time to time, whether you rely upon your maid much more than she relies upon you. You are drifting, lost amidst the sweet oblivion of sleep. Your game of whist with your maid proceed as it always does, with your overwhelming, a little too obvious victory, which left you feeling unsatisfied as always. You passed your idle hours as best you could, either talking to your maid or flipping through the pages of a book. Yet you could not forget your maid's surprise when she let you win a whist once again. You know she does it for your sake, but you wish she would not bother. Her exclamations of surprise all ring hollow. They do not convince you, and you begin to fear, as the day escapes you, that her smiles will begin to seem similarly unconvincing. What will you do if your maid does not truly love you? This thought plagues you throughout the day and long into the night, so much so you welcome the inevitable oblivion of sleep. Your maid helps you into your nightgown, pale pink this time, like the skin of a ripened peach, and she brushes out your hair as you sit before your vanity. 100 strokes delivered in precise, pristine manner. She prepares you for bed as she does every night, with the stringent attention of an Egyptian embalmer, as if she means to prepare you for the afterlife. You lie in your bed at your maid's behest, pulling your sheets about you, cool and crisp and white and pure. You snuggle against Percy, whose fur is a little matted from old age, who is now missing one eye. You love your natty old teddy bear, of course, no matter how old he might be, no matter how threadbare. He has seen you through many dark, stormy nights, when the thunder cracked outdoors like dropped dishes and you feared you would die. He has always been your steadfast, stalwart companion. But you fancy that there is something of the grave about your poor, dear Teddy. He feels like a funeral gift, a token which will come with you into the afterlife. You cannot shake the feeling that this may be the last night of an unbroken slumber that you have. You cannot shake the feeling that this may well be the last night of unbroken slumber that you have in quite some time, that your world will fast alter before your very eyes. But surely you are being paranoid. Your maid might have been upset earlier, yes, but she is often upset. There's nothing to suggest that today's upset was any greater than the upsets past. Nothing to suggest that anything is amiss. You are overthinking things. You always do that. You worry too much, and you have been worrying more than usual lately because you have been unwell. Your head feels too heavy, as though it has been eaten away by termites. It feels like a hole has been bored into your skull. It aches, and so you sleep. You surrender yourself to dreams where nothing can hurt you, where nothing can go wrong. You sleep, and you sleep, and you sleep. But you eventually awake. It is inevitable that you would, for nobody could sleep forever. However much you might wish for it, however much you might will it. Your eyelids flutter open inevitably, inexorably. You expect, upon waking, that you will need to peer through the darkness, swimming through sheets of it, pressing down upon you like fathoms upon fathoms of salty seawater. But, to your surprise, you awake as you always have. It is light outside, and the sun streams in through your curtains. The light dapples your pillow and your cheek, gently warming you in an act of divine benediction. The sunlight is soft and soothing. You lean into it, as a child might seek out their mother's touch. But there is something strange about your bedroom. A cursory glance, however, reveals that your room looks as it always has. The sheets pale blue, your favorite landscapes lining the walls in their ornate frames. Your little vials of perfume are still arranged upon your vanity, and so is your favorite sun hat. Nothing seems out of place, and yet... Faintly you can hear something. A whistle of the wind, perhaps, or no. Is that a scream? You sit upright in your bed, your slender body trembling, your eyes impossibly wide. You glance about, turning your head this way and that, not too sharply, though, else your stomach will turn. You feel sick. You can smell a peculiar aroma, or maybe it would be more correct to call it a stench. You do not yet know it in your innocent arrogance, but girls who have spent their lives working on farms or in fancy kitchens would be able to name that smell in an instant. It is the stench of the slaughterhouse. Some great act of violence has been perpetuated downstairs beneath your very feet. But you are a well-bred young lady, and you do not know what blood is supposed to smell like. You know blood only when your monthlies arrive, and that blood, dead blood, is not the same as this blood, freshly spilled all over the Turkish carpets. Your mind does not know the smell, but your body reacts to it all the same. You wince, winding your arms around your middle. It is a warm, sunny morning, but you find yourself shaking regardless. What is going on? You sit there in your bed, and for what feels a small eternity, waiting, straining your ears to detect the smallest of sounds, no matter how far away. Until eventually it comes to you, the repetitive tapping of approaching footsteps. There is somebody coming down the hallway, somebody standing by your door. You see the handle twist, hear the lock click. Your breath catches in your throat. You turn your head and then... My lady, it's so good to see you again. Looking at your pretty face makes me feel better. I don't think there could be any more effective balm for my nerves. Not in all of the world. She is standing there, just as you expected her to be, just as you were hoping she would be. Your maid has arrived for you, as she does every morning. She is wearing her usual attire, the black gown and white apron. In one hand she is holding a tray upon which is laid a teapot and a teacup and a couple of scones. Again, as she does every morning. Your maid has awoken you every morning for almost a decade. This is how it should be. This is how things have always been between you, and how you have always imagined they will be in the future. From now, or so you'd like to imagine, until the end of the world. This is what you want. But there is something horribly wrong with your maid. Her white apron isn't as spotless as it usually is. It is spattered instead in gobbets of bright red, and so are her hands, and so are her cheeks. You suck in a breath upon seeing her. What little color you have voids your face, and your maid, seeing this, winces. She approaches your bedside. You cannot help but shrink away from her, and says, "It's all right, milady. I know my current appearance might be alarming, but you don't need to worry about me. None of the blood is mine." So it is blood. You thought as much. You might not recognize its scent, not from a distance, but you are not so very sheltered that you do not know what blood looks like. It streaks across your maid's cheek like Celtic war paint of old, as if she is... as if she is Boudica? Come to drive the Romans out of Britain. Boudica. I know I've heard of that before. Her hands, meanwhile, are slick and wet with the stuff. Such a deep, rich red, it looks as though she is wearing gloves. Boudica. Bright red smears the delicate tea tray in her hands and mixes with the scent of your tea, so your stomach churns. This shouldn't be happening, but... Shh, your maid says, as if soothing a baby, though you haven't said anything yet. It's all right, milady. Everything will be fine. You've endured a lot, I know, but you don't need to worry about that now. I fixed it all for you. I fixed everything. Everything will be all right. It's all fine. Your maid repeats these pretty little phrases like a broken automaton, her mouth snapping open and closed, and she sets your tray on your bedside table, sets it down with a clink, just like always. She is acting as she always does in the mornings, performing a pantomime of your shared routine, but there's a stiffness to her shoulders, an awkwardness in the way that she moves. She doesn't sound even remotely convincing. You look at her with anxious eyes, feeling like a small rabbit, one which has been cornered by a hungry fox. You swallow, your throat shifting. Then, very quietly, you ask her what happened. What did she do? It is unfortunate, your maid says, after a pregnant pause which suggests it really is anything but. But your mother refused to listen to me. She was being rather recalcitrant, actually. I told her once again that you had no interest in Lord Worthing, yet she ignored my pleas on your behalf. She was being quite cold, actually, positively frigid. Why, Talking to her was just like trying to argue with a glacier. That's how receptive she was. She was so aloof, I knew my words could never reach her. I'm not sure why I bothered, really. I knew from the beginning that it was all useless. But still, I wanted to believe. I tried to tell her how you felt, but it was all in vain. I tried my best. Here, your maid's voice trails off. She inhales sharply, her pupils seeming to shrink inside her head. 2 pinpricks of color drifting in a sea of milky white. Her fingers curl at her chest, scrabbling as if means to dig into her own skin, to tear out her own beating heart. She winces, and then, but what good is trying if it doesn't yield results? I knew it was a pointless endeavor from the beginning. Who would ever listen to a maid like me? I doubt the Lord and Lady know me from Eve. I've been working my fingers to the bone for them for years, ever since I was a child, ever since my 12th birthday. And for what? I might be your lady's maid, but the lords and ladies of this world, they couldn't distinguish me from the urchins who work in the kitchen. I am nothing to them. I am less than nothing to them. They did not care what I had to say, seemed offended, in fact, that I dare say anything to them at all. They wouldn't listen to me. So I had to make them listen. I had no other choice. You look at your maid mutely for a few moments, watch her rock back and forth, her arms twined about her middle as if for protection. But what does she have to protect herself from? Surely she has taken care of any potential threats already. If anything, your parents are the ones who ought to have protected themselves from her. She might be a maid, but she is no mere maid. Her cheeks and fingers are not stained with coal from the scullery or ashes from the fireplace, but with something far more vivid, much more viscous. You know what that is, of course. What this is, of course. You could smell it in the air, rich and thick, so intense your nostrils twitch from it. You know what your maid has done, but stupidly, foolishly, you still ask what she has done. You ask her what she did. How did she make your parents listen to her? I made them listen, your maid says, her voice scattershot, a little distracted. The only way I knew how. The only way animals can be made to listen. I already told you, milady, that your parents are not half so genteel as they like to imagine themselves. Though they wear fine clothes and they have all these airs and graces, they're nothing more than beasts. They are foul, filthy, unrepentant animals. Your maid spits, her eyes narrow with hatred, her words dripping with vitriol. And everybody knows that you can't reason with beasts. It isn't possible. They don't understand words. I might love her. So I had to use violence instead. I am not proud of it, your maid continues, seeing the way you tense. But some sacrifices have to be made. I did it for your sake, you know, your maid continues, her voice soft and gentle, but deceptively so. In the past, your maid's caring tones used to reassure you. Now, however, they leave you feeling cold, uncomfortably chilled to the very marrow of your bones. I did it for your sake, your maid said, as though this was something you had asked for, as though this was something that you wanted. I did it for your sake, she said, her face mottled with blood freckles. her once white apron stained with gore. I did it for your sake, she undoubtedly told herself as she thrust the blade of a knife forth, if indeed she did use a knife, and she rent skin from bone, slicing flesh up like raw meat. She killed people. She killed your parents. She killed Lord Worthing too, though you cannot help but think he, at least, had it coming. And she doesn't look even remotely sorry. She doesn't even look shaken. Does she not care? Does she not care about what she has done? Or does she simply care about you more? You find yourself shivering, despite the sheets which are draped about you. With uneasy eyes, you examine your maid, who seems to misunderstand your unease. She takes a seat upon your bed. You try not to wince as she smears blood over your sheets, then cups your cheeks with both hands. She looks into your eyes, her pupils dilating. They no longer look like pinpricks, as she says, "Are you all right, milady? You're trembling so much. You aren't cold, are you?" Cold? You look at your maid mutely, momentarily dumbfounded. Does she truly believe that you tremble from the cold? How could that be when you're still swaddled beneath your sheets? It is a warm, sunny day, and the birds are chirping outside upon the boughs, the leaves green and verdant beneath the sunshine. The summer is coming, the weather is fair, and there's no need for you to shake so. The sunlight which graces your exposed shoulders is gentle, like the embrace of a lover. The maid's touch, meanwhile, makes your stomach churn. Your fingers are slick and sticky with blood. Her fingers are slick and sticky with blood. There is so much of it that has begun to turn black. The blood, not her blood, as she was quick to reassure you, has coagulated on her fingers, so it feels almost thick, sticky like tar, or like terracle. The blood, your parents' blood, stains your bed sheets. It stains your cheeks. The smell of it is overpowering, rich and coppery, like gold pennies, and it makes your stomach twist. You stare at your maid, your stomach twisting into knots. Treacle, a syrupy dessert. Syrupy. You wish that you could blink, and all of this would disappear, that our hands would be wiped clean from blood, and all would be well. But you know things can never be well again. She has already killed 3 people without flinching, perhaps more. Who's to say what she might do next? You're always so close, you and your maid, and yet, the longer you stare, the more you find you no longer know her. You knew she had her passions, of course. Some of the things she said about your parents were decidedly unchristian, but never did you think that she would go this far. Never did you think that she had such violence within her, coiled within her like the dark exterior of a slumbering snake. You did not think. But you have never thought much, have you? As a cosseted, well-cared-for young lady, you never had to. You were not content, exactly. But you allowed others to make all of your decisions for you. This is how you were raised. You thought it was right. You thought it correct that your parents were the ones to map out your future, that they had the final say on your future happiness and unhappiness both. You never thought about rebelling. The only time you ever asked for anything of your own accord is when you inquired, so shyly, whether your maid might become your personal servant. That is the only time you have ever spoken for yourself. So, of course other people will try to speak for you. They will put words in your mouth, and then they will carry out deeds on your supposed behalf that you never asked for. Violent, visceral deeds which leave you feeling faint. If your parents saw it fit to wed you to Lord Worthing, then it is only natural your maid would see it fit to halt this. She has not done anything that your parents have not done for you, to you, already. Like them, she has taken your future into her own hands. She is doing what she thinks is the best for your supposed benefit. But why did she never ask? You would expect such callousness from your parents, who never seemed to care about you, but your maid. You thought that you could trust her. You loved her, but she didn't love you in turn, not the way you wanted to be loved. She took your love, then trampled on it. She acted without your knowing, and now she claims she did it all for your sake? How could she? You continue to stare at your maid, unfrozen in place like a sculpture, as your maid examines you. She holds her cheeks between her palms, her red palm stained with gore, and exhales. She frowns, then says, "Oh, Justine, my dear, darling lady, why are you looking at me like that, as though you don't know me? Why are you trembling so? You've no need to fear me. I had never meant to hurt you. I was trying to help you. I did it all for you, just like the tea. That was all for you too. It has always been for you." The tea? What is she talking about? What other secrets has your maid been hiding from you? For you are sure now that she has been keeping secrets. Nobody can murder 3 people in cold blood, but was it only 3? Without being capable of subterfuge to the highest degree. What other lies has she been feeding you, sickly sweet, like macaroons? You stare at your maid, while your maid stares back at you. Her eyes bore into yours, while her lips slowly purse. Her voice, when next she speaks, is soft and gentle. She speaks to you as a mother might recite a child's bedtime story, her cadence soft and gentle, disturbingly so, given she is still covered in blood from tip to toe. "Yes, the tea," she says, though you've already begun to grasp its significance, are now beginning to wonder whether you want to know what she has been doing. It was in the tea all along. I put it in the tea, but I had to. I had no choice. There it is again, that well-worn excuse which can only get her so far. I had no choice. Perhaps such an excuse might work if she were trying to explain throwing away a pair of old stockings so wholly that they could no longer be darned. But to explain away a murder, several murders, it doesn't quite ring true. Your parents said you were to wed Lord Worthing, but I knew you had no interest in the man. You complained about him enough, though, no, that is not quite true. That isn't quite true. You do not complain, do you, Justine? You are too virtuous to complain, not like me, and far too well bred. Your parents told you that women oughtn't to decry their lots in life. They told you to be obedient, and you took this lesson to heart. You never complained, but I knew what was in your heart. I knew you did not want to marry him. Why would you? It officious? An officious, pompous boar like that. Officious. An officious, pompous boar like that. I certainly had no fondness to spare for that awful man, with his little mustache and his inflated sense of superiority. So I devised a plan. It was quite the ingenious plan, really, if you don't mind me boasting. No, you do not mind her boasting. Your maid has committed sins far, far greater than vanity this morning. Thank you. I'm glad you understand, your maid says with a small smile. Now, you have probably gathered what I did already. You've always been such a smart girl, but since I'm here and I'm covered in blood, I might as well tell you. For the last fortnight, I have been mixing hemlock into your tea. Hemlock. Is that not toxic? Your maid says, with a small smile. She nods. Yes, indeed. Good job, dear Justine. I knew you would understand. You've always been so very clever. I dug the hemlock in the dark, in the woods by the garden, and I've been mixing into your tea ever since. Not enough to kill you, of course, but enough to incapacitate you, certainly. I had thought if you felt ill, not deathly ill, but ill enough, that your parents would take some degree of pity on you. I thought their fond feelings for their only daughter would trump their desire to make an alliance with Lord Worthing, and that they would call the wedding off an allegiance. I had hoped that they would love you more than they loved the allure of gold. But I was wrong. I put too much faith in your parents, the beasts, the bastards that they are, and your sickness didn't compel them to call off the wedding. If anything, they seemed inclined to speed up the preparations, for fear you might pass away before Lord Worthing had a chance to put a ring upon your lovely little finger. You really didn't need to slide in that lovely part. I was already kind of wrapped around yours. They were determined to wed you regardless of the cost, even of the stress, as the physician deduced, of your upcoming nuptials. That is a word I don't think I've ever seen. I left the bed, but thank you for streaming. It was fun watching you squirm. Listen, I wasn't squirming, I was reading. These are very different things. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. It is, I promise. Dr. Godwin herself said the wedding might be the cause of your mysterious malady. Yet that did not sway your parents. I fear that nothing could. They were too callous to care for you, my dear Justine. They had no fond feelings for you, even when you were horribly sick. Your maid's fingers, which once were cupping your cheeks so gently, now tighten. You feel her nails scraping against your skin, feeling cold, hard keratin beneath all the blood, and you wince. So I killed them. I killed them using a cleaver which I liberated from the kitchen. Ah, so that is the murder weapon, is it? You had wondered. I cut your fine, fancy father's throat. I cut it so deeply a jet of blood spurted from it into a crimson spray. It caught me here, and here, and here too. your maid says, now gesturing towards herself. For such a fastidious man, he made an awful mess. It was quite unpleasant, really, but it was easy work. My cleaver went inside his throat so easily, he offered no resistance at all. It was just like slaughtering a lamb, and I had done that often enough on my own parents' farm. He crumpled to the ground in seconds after I tugged the cleaver out, and that is when I made a start on your mother. Her I disemboweled, like the sow that she is. Her intestines spilled out of her stomach in a warm rush. I wish you could have seen it, Justine. I'm certain you would have found it satisfying. There was more blood, but I was able to avoid the worst of the splatter this time. I learned, you see, and I adapted. I might be a maid, but I am no fool. Damn. I pulled out her intestines like a garland. They splattered all over the floor. They were pinkish, and they seemed to pulsate in the lights of the drawing room. If I had wanted, I could have worn them like a stole or hung them up like a wreath. But I didn't, of course. I am not. Very detailed. There's a lot going on in this frame, like, immediately. One, reading out, like, for some reason, like, yeah, I brought up, like, how much I can play Doom, and, like, I like Doom Eternal, and, like, yeah, the glory kills, and, like, yeah, violence, woohoo. It is one thing between all of the visual gore and viscera and blood that, like, I've seen in games, that I think I'm at the point where reading it is much more intense than just outright seeing it, which is a very absurd thing to say. But I think that's kind of the cost of desensitization. Two, before, I think it was around the time of, like, night 2, like, an earlier segment, but there's earlier I caught it, her eyes lose color, and I was wondering, like, I was half wondering, like, was that just me? Like, did I mentally think that? Like, no, her eyes have always looked like that. No, that's not true. Her eyes are more purple. But now, and in another instance, they are more devoid of color. A very small, but very powerful change. But I didn't do that, of course. I am not twisted, not deranged. I wanted only to teach her a lesson. A lesson you think grimly your mother will have been bound to forget. Your grasp of human biology is poor. It is not a subject you were ever schooled in. Your parents thought it too vulgar for a young lady. But you know that no human can survive with their intestines pulled out. Not for too long, at least. That's why specifically human biology is anatomy. Oh, your poor mother. You were never very close to her. In fact, you might have been afraid of her. But still, you find yourself imagining her final moments. You imagine your maid descending upon her, the soles of her boots heavy on the floor, and you wince. For all of your mother's fault, you do not think she deserves such a grisly ending. You can't imagine that anybody would. Of course, I dispatched of Lord Worthing too, your maid continues, her voice low and hurried, almost feverish. I would rather not dwell on what I did to him. It isn't exactly ladylike. Because pulling your mother's intestines out of her abdomen is a much more appropriate topic of conversation, you're sure. But, needless to say, he won't be bothering you anymore either. None of them will. Not your parents, nor Lord Worthing, nor any of the silly servants who tried to stop me. I dispatched of them all, so she did kill more than 3 people. They are all dead and gone now, my dear Justine. Nobody can make you marry if you do not wish to, and nobody can harm you. I did this all for you, my mistress, my lady, my one true love. You were once caged away, like a little bird, but now you are free. Is that not wonderful? Couldn't you laugh out for joy? Don't you feel thankful? Your maid stares at you, her eyes wide and dark and awful like 2 bottomless pits, 2 vast staring voids. You can tell there is something deeply wrong with your maid, as though the reddish-brown blood dabbed on her front did not make that immediately obvious. Once, you thought you could trust her. Now, you fear you would be a fool if you continued to do so. How can you trust somebody who not only lets herself loose and whist, but who has killed your parents? You do not care overtly much about Lord Worthing, and who has been steadily poisoning you. Of these crimes, one of these crimes would be bad enough, but all 3, that really is unforgivable. You wonder whether you should tell your maid as much. Funnily enough, you do not feel at all thankful about her intervention. But you are not afforded the choice. You open your mouth, but no words come out. Instead, you find yourself coughing. A dry, hacking cough, so loud it takes you by surprise. You press a hand to your mouth, your eyes squeezed shut from the sheer shock of it. You feel like a weak, feeble, fragile thing as you cough over and over. Your whole body quakes. You feel horribly bony as you hack dryly, chest heaving. You have been coughing a lot lately, ever since you fell sick, ever since your maid made you sicken. But never has it hurt so much as it does now. It feels as though your throat is being scoured by steel wool, and there is an unpleasant taste bubbling on your tongue. Is that? Oh, my lady, your maid exclaims, agonized on your behalf, as you start to cough. Are you all right? It sounds as though you are in pain. Here, take this. Please, feel free to make use of it. Like everything else I own, it is all yours. Your maid hands you a kerchief as she speaks, a little square of fabric which was folded up and stashed away in her skirt pocket. Though your maid's clothes are splattered with gore, you note that the handkerchief's quite clean, almost perversely so. It seems strange that this little square of fabric should have emerged from your maid's multiple murders unscathed. but it does not remain so for long. You press the kerchief against your mouth gratefully. Your maid might have murdered your parents, but she is doing you a kindness, allowing you to preserve your dignity. You cough against it, over and over, while your maid rubs your temples back, while you rubs your trembling back, muttering soothing remarks as she does. Eventually, your coughing fit subsides. You draw the kerchief away, feeling lightheaded, and the moment you do, you gasp. The kerchief was once ivory, but no longer. It too has been stained bright red. A vivid flower is beginning to blossom upon it, even redder than the roses which grow in the garden outdoors. Naturally, it is blood. Naturally, it is your blood. You have coughed up phlegm before, but never blood. You're accustomed to your monthlies, but never before has your blood bubbled from your mouth like this. You stare at the kerchief, shocked in silence. Your fingers curl about it. They curl so tightly your knuckles crack, while your maid sighs. "Oh dear," she says, sounding so softly, sweetly sympathetic, you almost, but not quite, forget what she has done. "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I suppose that will be the tea taking effect. I slipped a little more hemlock into it yesterday than usual. I thought it prudent after I had that altercation with your mother. I had already discerned that she would not listen to reason yesterday morning when I tried to dissuade her from wedding you to Lord Worthing. I saw your future before my eyes, a future where you would suffer, kept under the thumb of that odious man. So I sought to liberate you using whatever means necessary. Naturally, I plan to kill your parents. Naturally," she says, as though it is, well, the most natural thing in the world. How funny. You don't think that mass murder is the natural answer one would hit upon. But then again, you are no great thinker. You are no scientist, and neither are you a scholar. You are just a lady. Who are you to say what is natural? But I wanted some insurance in case my plan was unsuccessful. I thought I would poison you more thoroughly than before, so that you would at least die, even if your parents did not. This way, I can ensure you would never have to marry that awful Lord Worthing. He will never be able to walk you down the aisle now, not if you are a corpse. Though, he will have a hard time trying to walk anywhere at the moment, with his head split open like a pomegranate. Jesus! He was easier to best than I imagined. I slaughtered him so easily, even though he took up a poker. He tried to defend himself, but he knew not what to do with it. He jabbed at me a few times, rather ineffectively too, as if he were fencing. I don't think... If this is a bad end, then a good ending... then a good ending is possibly worse than death. He probably didn't fence in that university of his, your maid continues, her upper lip curled with obvious derision. He fancied himself an expert with a rapier, but he had no bloodlust in him. He was only showing off, into a room full of corpses too. Well, I soon disarmed him. Then, I all but decapitated him. He will not be able to wed you. But I had to be certain, your maid continues, taking your cheeks between her fingers once more. I had to know that he would never be able to marry you, even if I was unable to best him. It was a foolish worry of mine, as now I can see. But I was doing it for your sake, Justine. Your maid entreats, her fingers sticking to your sticky against your skin. All of this I have done for you. I meant to save you from your fate however I could, even if I had to kill you. Then, is it inevitable that you will die? Your maid finishes for you. There's a small pause, and then, yes, I should think so. You are coughing up blood, dear thing. You have not long left for this world. But don't worry, I love you. I love you, so I will not leave you. I cannot live without you. Tea break, hang on. Jeez. I love you, so I will not leave you. I cannot live without you, your maid says, as though this ought to make you feel better, smearing your cheeks as she speaks with obscene red makeup. You realize as she holds you that your maid has an irritating habit of telling you not to worry, as if you're an idiot child with no brain in her head. She thinks you a fool, but perhaps she is correct. She only resorted to such drastic measures because you refused to do anything about your own plight. If only you had spoken up against your marriage match to Lord Worthing, perhaps this never would have happened. Your parents have always been cold and uncaring, but they might have been more inclined to listen to you than a mere maid. Perhaps you could have avoided this, if only you had been a little bit braver. But it is too late to worry about such things now. You are in so much pain at this point that death itself might be a mercy. There is nobody I love more than you, your maid continues, her voice soft now, but frantic, her every syllable threatening to singe you like the flame of a candle. I can't live in a world without you, my dear Justine. I do not even want to imagine it. It would hurt far too much, even more than a knife in the ribs, or a cleaver through the throat. So let us both die together, your maid announces, her voice feverish, her cheeks faintly pink. I think that would be wonderfully romantic. Do you not agree, milady? Why, we would be just like Romeo and Juliet. You're not too sure about that. You never much liked Romeo and Juliet. Though it is touted as a romance, you think it awfully macabre, and fail to see why either Romeo or Juliet had to die. I'm gonna use this as a way to kind of like at least ease a little bit of attention. The reason why Romeo and Juliet had to die is because comedies end in marriages, and dramas end in death. So before, when we were a lot more strict about those kind of definitions for genres, dramatic romance wasn't really a thing before. Like, in comparison to something like Midsummer's Night's Dream, which was a comedy, but it ended in a wedding. It ended in multiple characters being wed. So like, oh, what if we have a love story that ends tragically? And here we are, where my sweet Romeo is going to die with me. It is all horribly contrived, nothing more than a series of misunderstandings. Romance is mostly for the middle class because weddings are also a very big thing about showing off wealth and also merit and like two families together, inheritance. Yeah. But this is not here for. We are not here for critique on marriage as an institution. In the grim, unforgiving world you live in, you sometimes think it would be the braver ending to allow Romeo and Juliet some happiness. You have always thought death to be an unsatisfying ending to any story. It is final and leaves no room for confusion, no room for further conversation. Death is the absence of all meaning. It comes for us all in the end, yes, but it strips us of our complexities, of our idiosyncrasies, of our hypocrisies. In death, we are all the same. In death, we are all equal. Which means that, in death, we are all equally worthless. You wish to tell your maid that you see nothing romantic in a joint suicide, that, if she knew you as well as she claims, she would know that. But you cannot get out the words. You are coughing too much. More blood, red bile, escapes from your lips. Your spittle is starting to turn pink, and you heave. You feel as though you will be sick, but you are not alone in your suffering. Your maid looks at you somberly, her eyes half-lidded. She seems sad, at least, at what she has wrought, but she is not particularly apologetic. 10,000-word thesis on it. I could if I was angry enough. She seems to regard your death as an inevitability, like the slow and steady sinking of a ship. I know, dear one. I know it hurts, but I will be joining you soon. Please, wait for me, milady. Give me a few moments more. Together, we will die as one. Then nobody will be able to separate us. Your maid brings the delicate, willow-patterned teacup to her lips. A string of steam exudes from the surface of the tea, which is darker than you have ever seen it. It looks almost black. It is a good thing your maid did not ask you to sip from this cursed cup, for you knew you would have balked at it. Your maid tried to hide the hemlock in your tea, so that you would sip it obediently, like a good girl, but she has been far more heavy-handed with her own refreshment. The tea is more toxic than tea. It looks worryingly black, like the extremities of a corpse, like ashes sown in a fireplace. The maid inhales. Then she drinks. You watch as she downs the contents of her teacup. Watch as her throat convulses, and as she sets the cup aside upon its saucer. Your maid sways, her eyes widen, her pupils dilating until they seem to consume her whites entirely. She lurches forward, and you wonder, for a moment, whether she will expire on this spot. But no. Once more, her slick red palms find your cheeks. She holds you a little more tightly this time, a little more desperately. And she crushes your lips, and she crushes her lips to yours in a kiss. You can taste the poison on her lips, can taste it on her tongue. You gasp against the kiss, hard and harsh and entirely unwanted, and your maid uses this to her advantage. She's lot of tongue in this game. She slides her tongue inside your mouth, her tongue which tastes of decay and disease. She drank such a highly concentrated dosage of poison, you are surprised it did not turn her tongue black, that it did not start to crumble at the root. Her tongue tastes oddly fleshy, however in your mouth, it has not turned to ashes, though you fear you, soon, will meet such a sorry fate. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, mouthwash would ruin the taste. On your maid kisses you. You taste the hemlock in her saliva, its flavor more intense than anything you have tasted before. Your maid draws your I'm going to die. In game and out of game. Your maid draws your tongue into her own mouth. Oh my god. She suckles on it as a baby might its mother's teat, and as the poison slowly floods your body, your consciousness begins to fade. The taste of decay and disease and death from a wonderful, dutiful, dutiful, dutiful maid. Unbidden, your eyes droop shut, your eyelids hard and heavy, just like lead. Your fingers have started to feel horribly, unnaturally cold. Your heartbeat, meanwhile, begins to slow. You succumb, bit by bit, to your own inevitable end, to the inevitability of the grave, and the worms which wish to make mincemeat out of your slender, lily-like limbs. But no, this is not a past you wish to recall. This is not a past you wish to reclaim. Did you not see any other paths available to you as you drifted? Any other lives which might be more satisfactory? Why don't you reach out and see, quickly now, while you still can? Why don't you see who else you might have been, and what else you might become? That... Thank you, Ebi-Hime. That might be... I thought the last one, I thought the scientist was like the most unbecoming I've been on stream. I am glad to be proven extremely wrong. But also, wow. I feel exposed. Damn. Hang on, I do have like a little bit of, I have a little bit of my own tea left. Wow. Huh. I feel like I am on the cusp of saying horrific things. I want to at least continue a little bit into the nurse. I didn't expect that one to be as short as it was, but like, oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. You continue to drift into darkness. It submerges you like tar, like oil. There's something oddly reassuring about the darkness. Something soothing. Oh, it's time to wake up. But you cannot drift forever. There are people who are worrying about you. People who care for you. Surely they must care, for you can hear a voice calling to you through the veil of darkness. A voice which stirs memories deep within you. You recognize that voice. You are sure you know the speaker, that you can't put a name or a face to them. Not just yet, at least. Beth? It's time to wake up. And this realization is like a flickering candle, one which soon turns to a burning beacon. This light, no, this fire, fills you, scorning you from your tip to your toe. You are assailed by memories, phantoms, sounds, and smells. You recall the cracking of wood, the flickering of flames. Motes of fire dance beneath your closed lips, threatening to burn you from the inside out. You shiver, though you do not understand why. Fire ought to be hot, and yet... Beth, I will not ask you again. Wake up, you silly girl. Huh? You cannot keep sleeping. Not now. You fear if you continue to drift, these burning flames will finally consume you. Your lungs will fill with thick, acrid smoke, and then you will choke to death, while all else burns around you. You do not want to endure that again. So you force yourself to open your eyes, even though it hurts. The back of your head is throbbing, and there is an unpleasant taste on your tongue, an unpleasant stench in your nostrils. The smell is sharp and rank, acrid, acidic and acrid. It is the stench of neglect, disease, dereliction, and dust. And beneath it all, you swear you catch a lingering smell of smoke. You lie there, dazed and disoriented. Your eyes might be open, but you still have no idea where you are. Scarcely any idea who you are. Pain continues to throb in the back of your skull, slow and dull and regular. You feel sick. You wish you had never woken up, but you had no other choice. You know you cannot sleep forever. You blink, dispersing white spots which swim in front of your vision. I have those suck. And look around groggily. You still have no idea where you are, and that awful stench is making you feel sick. And you smoke. Red eyes, black hair, smoker. And you say mean things to me. This isn't fair. Oh, I see you have finally come to. I was beginning to worry you wouldn't wake up this time. You put me through quite a lot of stress, you awful girl. You really will be the death of me one day. But you soon realize that you are not alone. There is a woman standing by your bedside, a tall, gaunt woman who looks alarmingly skeletal. The woman is skinny to the point of emaciation, with pale flesh, which sits a bit too close to her bones. Emaciation. I swear, I promise I can speak. I promise I can speak straight. Her eyes are an unsettling crimson, and her under eyes are dark. The bags beneath her eyes are so black, her irises look as though they are set into two blank, staring holes. This offers the peculiar woman an uncanny quality, as if she is observing you from a great distance. Her hair is dark and straggles loosely around her shoulders which are gaunt, sharp, and bony, just like the rest of her. She wears the attire of a nurse, white apron, blue gown, white stockings, and black boots, and her mouth is concealed by a surgical mask. You cannot see her mouth, but you can gauge her expression from those awful eyes of hers alone. She is looking at you with a detached sort of curiosity, as a scientist might observe a specimen, one which has been pinned down on a board, ready to be dissected. Her intrigue in you is of a surgical kind, her red irises so unnerving you shudder. You cannot say you trust this woman, but at least your dreams of fire have faded into the background. You cannot think of fire when you look at this woman. She is much too cold for it, an ice sculpture brought to life. You look at the nurse uneasily. You do not trust her, but you still ask her where you are, what is going on. You have nobody else, after all, to turn to for answers. She's the only other person here you can talk to. Well, the nurse raises an eyebrow. Do you not know where you are? Mutely, perhaps meekly, you shake your head. The nurse looks at you coldly. You think that everything she does must be cold, then says, "And do you know who you are?" This question is even more pointed than the last. It lacerates you, just like broken glass, and you tremble. This ought to be easy to answer. How can you not know who you are? And yet, you should know this. The answer is on the tip of your tongue, but when you try to grope for it, you are met with nothing save, well, nothingness. There is a hole in your head where your memories ought to be. You can feel the empty, aching lack inside your skull, throbbing. Your sense of self has slowly leaked away, while you are lying in your hospital bed in this dark and dingy room. You ought to know who you are, but you do not. Your own identity is a mystery to you. You do not know your age, nor your occupation, nor even your name. Could you be a queen for all you could be a queen for all you know, the sort with the power to order executions, and you would have no idea. You have never felt more lost before. Or at least, you think that you have never felt more lost before. How can you be so sure of that, however, when you cannot remember anything past the present? All you know is this hospital bed. The only face you can recall with any clarity is that of your nurse, as she stands beside you, and, even then, you can only see half of her face. The surgical mask obscures her mouth. You cannot remember the faces of your patients, if you even have any. You cannot recall any brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, nephews and nieces, family, friends. You cannot recall a single thing. Mutely, you bite the inside of your cheek. You bite a little too hard, and your teeth shear through the soft, inviting flesh within. Blood begins to bubble from the wound, sharp and coppery, and you wince. The nurse, meanwhile, clicks her tongue. I'll take that as a no, then. That is unfortunate. Here you wince, as if you have failed some sort of test. Have you let her down? But that's all right. That is what I am here for. You cock your head at your nurse curiously. What does she mean by that? I know who you are, the nurse continues, her voice a dull monotone. Even if you don't, that is my job. Now, listen. You are a young lady of some renown. A young lady. You cannot recall being a young lady, but by the same token, you cannot remember being a scullery maid, or a farmer's assistant, or a spinner either. If you have to be anything, you suppose you could do much worse than being a lady. It is only one step down from being a princess, which is one step down from being a queen. I'm gonna steal that mindset. That's a very, very productive and self-affirming mindset. A lady is one step down from a princess, and a princess is one step down from a queen. If you have to assume any identity, you could do worse than being a lady. But you could also do far better. Ladies have less power, after all, than the lords who father them, the lords they wed. Yes, you think, as you sit there, you would rather be a lord. You do not know much of yourself, but you cannot imagine you have ever wanted to be a lady. You are out riding, the nurse says, her voice dispassionate. On your horse when you had something of an accident. An accident? Indeed. You slipped and you fell and you broke your leg. I did my best to set your bones, but it'll take some time for you to recover. Until then, I must advise that you remain here, undisturbed and unmoved. Naturally, I will check in on you at regular intervals, and I will see that all of your needs are being met. That is what I am here for. Ah, you see, you had wondered why your right leg felt so heavy, and why it looked so bulky beneath your sheets. You cannot see the current state of your leg, not with the sheets atop it, but you imagine you are wearing a cast. You can remember what a cast is, at least, even if you cannot remember your own name, your old home, your friends, and family. How curious. You must have banged your head rather hard when you fell off your horse. That would be the only logical explanation behind your disorientation, the dull ache inside your skull. You swallow, tasting decay on the air, tasting dust, and you wince. Your fingers curl about your sheets, which are threadbare, and you glance about. You take in your room, dark and drab and decidedly dingy, with peeling walls and a wooden floor and a singular window, small and mean like a prison cell, and you frown. Your nurse says that you are a young lady, but if that is true, why are your surroundings so derelict, madam? Yes, that's a good way of terming it. Where, you ask your nurse, is this place? This, the nurse replies coolly, is a private sanatorium. Young girls are sent here when they sicken, and we, which is to say, us nurses, do our best to help you recover. So, okay. I'm making an executive decision. One, partly because I am maybe a little, extremely, very hungry. I'm extremely hungry because I did. Yeah, no, damn. That is a fault of mine. Yeah, I'm extremely very hungry. Because usually I'm better about making sure that I eat something before a certain time so I'm not hungry during stream. But then I got distracted with this side project, and that's kind of why stream also started late. But now I am reaping what I have sown by not eating when I should have, and now I'm extremely hungry. So I think ending on this note, at least for right now, would be a good endpoint. Um, Partly because I also do want to like keep these in very set parts, and also because if Ebi is pulling the same trick as It Gets So Lonely here, I anticipate there to be like a quote unquote wrap up or like a fourth route at the end of this one, and I don't know how long this one's going to be. I don't want to kind of like push and force myself through this, because then if I do get to the end of this, I will also want to do the fourth one. And also, these have just been fun to read, and I kind of want an excuse to set up like another stream for this to be maybe slightly self-indulgent with. Because also, a very obvious and very open question that I feel is very fair to ask at this current point, which is a very good hook, not only to keep me thinking about it, but also for the audience to keep thinking about it. Why would I be at a sanitarium if I fell off a horse? Sanatorium, my apologies, pronunciation. Why would I be at a private sanatorium after I've fallen off my horse? Young girls are sent here when they sicken, and we, which is to say us nurses, do our best to help you recover. Not exactly it's very curious type of setup. Also, because I'm not sure how much longer I can look at a pretty girl with long black hair and red eyes and a cigarette in one hand and maintain my composure after literally everything that just happened in the last route. So I think as a temporary stopgap, especially considering how hungry I am, it's only gonna make me worse. Probably gonna have to end here. But also considering that the stream on Tuesday kind of went like, I don't want to say like way over, but that definitely went longer than I expected. And the fact that I've kind of been doing these back to back to back to back this week, I think a small break is fine. I think a slightly shorter stream for admittedly kind of pretty, very self-indulgent stream would be nice. But yeah, so I'm probably going to end that there. I really like the Maid chapter. If it wasn't obvious enough before, that one hit a lot of very specific weaknesses of mine. But yeah, damn. Thank you, Ebi-Hime. Thank you, Ebi-Hime. Thank you, Ebi-Hime. You done it again. Thank you, Ebi-Hime. Damn. Thank you. And thank you for spending time with me. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I have to make this quick. I actually am like really hungry. Thank you for spending time with me. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I hope you have a wonderful morning, noon, or night, no matter when you're watching this. And be sure to take care of yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. Speak up for yourselves, or else you never know whatever your maid might do, thinking that she knows you. Damn. And yeah. Thank you, Ebi-Hime. So, yeah. Johnny.